Good afternoon. Hope you and your family are doing well amidst this pandemic. I'm James Trantham, and today I want to look at Carla Prestina's article, Quaker Executions as Myth and History. Now, even as a student of history, I did not know that the Quakers that were executed by the Puritans of Massachusetts. I did know the Puritans had founded their colony for their own religious freedoms, but not for others. At first, colonies had a large degree of autonomy in deciding their laws. According to Bradford Chapin's article, Written Rights, Puritan and Quaker Procedural Guarantees. It was not until later, between the 1680s and 1695, that England moved the procedural rights back into English common law. Now, for their laws, both the Puritans and Quakers looked to the Holy Bible, but they had differences. The Puritans looked to the Old Testament, while the Quakers looked to the New Testament. Now, the Quakers had been persecuted in England and also in the American colonies. To help each other out, Quakers would offer sanctuary. Now, sanctuary is an ancient practice that, according to Linda Rabin, it had been abolished in 1624 by the British Parliament. Now, besides the persecutions, there was actually a law that was towards Quakers, was the Cart and Whip Act of 1660. This allowed Quakers to be publicly whipped from town to town and exiled. It was not until the founding of Pennsylvania by William Penn and also the passage of the Toleration Act of 1690 that Quakers found it easier to practice their faith. Now, in New England, the Quakers were traveling there to preach the upcoming end of the world. An article by Ingle, From Mysticism to Radicalism, Recent Historiographical of Quaker Beginnings, he states that there were underlying assumptions within Puritanism that led to radical impulses in 1660s, and these produced the challenges by Quakers and the other groups. Wherever the case may be, the Puritans were not happy. The Quakers were initially banished from the colony, not to return unless they wanted to die. Well, these Quakers came back. They had belief that the Puritan leaders were profane and corrupt. The Puritans would end up executing 4 Quakers over this. Now, since that time, both groups have rewrote their history. Quakers have rewritten their history where they were always pacifists, and during this time were like lambs being led to the slaughter. They wrote this in a way to make their people made into martyrs. The Puritans wrote that the Quakers were as like demonic invaders trying to overthrow the leadership at the time of their New England. Their myth is that the Puritans had fled religious repression and created a religious sanctuary in the wilderness. Now, it is interesting how both groups wrote their version of the events, and neither is the whole truth in the matter. Even put together, you have to sort out a whole bunch of other things that they have rewritten their history with. This shows, as historians, we must look through all sources to find the truth, not just one side or the other. I hope all of you have a good evening and a good weekend, and be safe.